Imagine buying a massive, multi-million-dollar luxury cruise ship. You finally get the keys.
Right.
And the absolute first thing you do, before anything else, is bring in a demolition crew. You take a literal sledgehammer to hundreds of perfectly good, revenue-generating cabins.
Just destroying your own inventory.
Exactly. You destroy your own inventory just so you can carry fewer paying customers. I mean, on paper, it sounds like a fast track to corporate bankruptcy.
Oh, absolutely.
It goes against, well, every single law of modern hospitality. But today, we're looking at why that exact move might just be the most brilliant strategy in the entire travel industry.
It really completely flips the established script because, when you look at the broader landscape of the 2026 travel industry, the prevailing business model is basically the absolute maximization of the vacation hour.
Right.
The major players are locked in this perpetual arms race of stimulation. You step onto a modern megaship today, and you are stepping into a floating metropolis engineered for total sensory overload.
Oh, totally. And don't get me wrong, the modern megaships are undeniably engineering marvels, but the marketing is just relentless. It screams at you like more, more, more.
Yeah.
They have multi-level electric go-kart tracks suspended over the ocean.
Right, robotic arms mixing neon cocktails.
Yes. There are 10 different intertwining water slides, Broadway-scale theatrical productions running 3 times a night. I mean, indoor virtual reality arenas. You are subtly, and honestly, sometimes not so subtly told that to get the true value out of your vacation, you need to be constantly entertained.
You need to be moving, eating, consuming, or queuing for the next big thrill at all times.
Right.
Which creates a very specific, almost frantic type of energy. It turns the vacation into an optimization problem. You find yourself treating your time off like a logistical military campaign.
Not the spreadsheet of joy. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You sit at your kitchen table 6 months before the trip, aggressively booking your specialty dinner reservations.
Because if you don't book the steakhouse now, you'll be eating at 9:30 p.m.
Exactly. You lock in your virtual reality laser tag slot for exactly 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. You meticulously strategize how your family is going to conquer the buffet lines before the shore excursion departure. It is exhausting.
It really is.
But there is a completely different paradigm. So today, we're stepping away from that chaotic, high-stimulation world. We are doing a deep dive into an in-depth 2026 travel guide by cruise specialist Yvonne Jr. Blanchette.
Right.
The guide is all about Crystal Cruises. And our mission today is to explore this philosophy of long-duration, ultra-luxury travel and really help you figure out if this highly specific brand of unhurried, restraint-focused travel is the right fit for your own journey, especially if you're planning to be away from home for a month or 2 or 3.
And we really need to analyze this not just as a standard vacation option, but almost as a deep psychological study of extended travel.
Okay, I like that.
Because when you embark on a voyage of 30, 60, or 100 days, your fundamental human needs change. The environment, the service model, the way things are priced, all of these elements play a massive compounding role in altering your mental state over time.
Yeah.
We're going to break down how an environment can be engineered to sustain absolute comfort and psychological ease for months on end, completely without relying on gimmicks.
To understand how they achieve this in 2026, though, we have to rewind the clock a bit. Because Crystal Cruises wasn't born out of the modern megaship era. The brand was founded way back in 1988.
Right.
And if you think about the late 80s, the cruise industry was a vastly different beast.
Yeah.
It was just starting to really segment into different markets.
The mass market lines were just beginning to realize they could build bigger and bigger vessels to achieve economies of scale.
Exactly. But even back then, Crystal made a deliberate contrarian choice. Instead of competing on sheer ship size or trying to cram in the most amenities, they built their entire reputation on restraint.
Restraint is really the foundational DNA of the brand. From its inception, Crystal defined luxury through smaller vessels, significantly higher crew-to-guest ratios, and a highly deliberate, uncrowded onboard experience.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to be the most exciting ship on the water. They were cultivating an environment that prioritized personal space and intuitive service over scale and spectacle.
And over the decades, that specific formula cultivated an incredibly dedicated, fiercely loyal following. I mean, these were seasoned, highly experienced travelers who understood the subtle, quiet differences in service quality.
They valued consistency.
Right. They didn't want the biggest ship. They wanted the best running ship.
But history is never a straight line.
Definitely not.
In the early 2020s, the entire global travel industry faced unprecedented disruption. Everyone took a massive hit, but Crystal was struck particularly hard. Their parent company at the time ran into severe, really insurmountable financial difficulties.
Operations were completely suspended. The ships were arrested.
Yeah, for a brief, heartbreaking period for those loyalists, the entire future of this beloved, prestigious brand was completely up in the air. It truly looked like the definitive end of the
It
line.
was a very dark period for the company. But what happened next is just one of the most fascinating strategic pivots in modern hospitality.
It really is.
The brand, the intellectual property, and two of their flagship ocean vessels were eventually acquired by new ownership.
Oh, okay.
Now, when a massive corporate entity acquires a struggling brand, especially one that has suffered a highly public operational collapse, the overwhelming corporate instinct is to completely reinvent it.
Oh, yeah. You want to wipe the slate clean.
Right. The instinct is to bring in a flashy new branding agency. You change the logo, you change the color palette, you install trendy new amenities that appeal to a completely different demographic.
Yeah.
You basically want to loudly signal to the market, hey, this is a new era. Forget about the past.
That is the standard playbook. You distance yourself from the troubled history to capture a new market share. But the new ownership of Crystal looked at the landscape, looked at the physical assets they had purchased, and realized that the inherent value of Crystal wasn't in some hypothetical modernized reinvention.
No.
The true value is in the legacy itself. It was in that very specific 1988 formula of space, service, and balance that had earned that fierce loyalty in the first place. Their driving objective became, restore rather than reinvent.
It makes me think of someone buying a massive, historic, Gilded Age mansion.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Like if you buy this beautiful property that has unfortunately fallen into a state of disrepair, you don't bring in the bulldozers, knock it down, and build a sleek glass and steel skyscraper on the lot.
Right.
You don't strap neon lights to the original brickwork. You bring in artisans to painstakingly restore the original woodwork. You spend a fortune polishing the original marble. Because that history, that specific craftsmanship, is the actual asset. You're preserving the soul of the thing.
And they didn't just adopt this restoration idea as a clever marketing slogan. They physicalized it, which brings us back to your opening point about the sledgehammers.
Ah, yes.
This is where it gets into the mechanics of the business. When they took their newly acquired flagship, the Crystal Serenity, in for a massive refurbishment before relaunching, they actively reduced the guest capacity relative to its original design.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is completely antithetical to standard yield management in the hospitality sector.
Wait, yield management for the uninitiated, that's the classic airline model, right?
Yes.
The mathematical science of cramming as many bodies into seats, or in this case cabins, as physically possible to maximize the profit margin on every single voyage.
Precisely the opposite of what Crystal did. Yield management dictates that empty space is wasted revenue. But Crystal took a ship that was already known in the industry for being quite spacious, and they permanently removed passenger volume.
They knocked down walls to combine smaller cabins into massive, sprawling suites.
Right. By reducing the denominator, the number of guests, they vastly improved the space per guest ratio across the entire vessel.
But from a purely modern 2026 business standpoint, I really have to wonder, is simply restoring an old formula enough? We're looking at a travel industry that is rapidly modernizing. Competitors are launching ships with literal submarines you can ride in.
Yes, submarines, helicopters.
They have multi-deck culinary complexes licensed by Michelin-starred celebrity chefs. In that environment, is it enough to just say, we are going back to being really good at what we did 20 years ago, and we have more space now?
It is the defining question for the brand, and the answer relies on a deep understanding of what the ultra-luxury consumer actually craves today. In 2026, restraint and space are actually much rarer, and therefore command a much higher premium than spectacle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think about it. Any holding company with enough venture capital can purchase a submarine or license a famous chef's name. That just takes money. But engineering genuine, uncrowded physical space and cultivating a sustained environment of absolute unhurried peace. Yeah.
That requires sacrificing short-term ticket revenue. It is incredibly difficult to achieve and even harder to maintain. By reducing capacity, they weren't just stubbornly clinging to the past, they were aggressively positioning themselves for a highly specific type of modern consumer who desperately wants to escape the noise.
So how does a company actually engineer this feeling of restored restraint? Because it's one thing to talk about a philosophy in a boardroom, but it has to manifest physically in the environment you walk into. Let's look closely at the physical space of the Crystal Serenity, because according to the guide, the ship itself is the primary canvas for this whole product.
The Crystal Serenity is the ultimate crucible where this philosophy is tested. Now, it's important to acknowledge the ship's pedigree. It originally launched in 2003.
Right.
In the maritime world, that means the vessel has a real history. But the recent refurbishment wasn't just a matter of replacing the carpets and putting a fresh coat of paint on the hull. It was a structural reimagining designed to facilitate their specific brand of luxury. And the core of that reimagining is the layout, prioritizing openness over density. The public areas, the lounges, the dining rooms, the pool decks are explicitly designed to be calm. The overall vibe they're targeting is much closer to a private, high-end residential building than a floating resort.
To understand the impact of that, think about the subtle architectural and atmospheric choices required to design for calm. The design intentionally removes competition.
Competition.
Yeah, on a typical mass market or even a premium cruise ship, your entire day is defined by subtle, continuous competition with your fellow passengers.
Oh, it's the, excuse me, pardon me, dance.
Exactly.
You wake up at 7 a.m. and you immediately have to strategize. You rush up to the pool deck to compete for a prime lounge chair, placing a paperback book and a towel on it to mark your territory.
The chair hogs.
You compete for a table at the buffet where you won't be bumped into by someone carrying a plate of scrambled eggs. You queue at the guest services desk. You are constantly physically navigating your body around crowds in the hallways and the elevators and the theaters.
And that constant low-level friction elevates your cortisol levels. It keeps you in a state of mild, continuous stress, even on vacation.
Which is wild.
The Crystal Serenity's reduced capacity and exceptionally high crew-to-guest ratio essentially evaporate that friction. The architectural flow is designed so that movement feels easy and completely unhurried at all times. There is no bottleneck at the restaurant entrance. There's no jockeying for a view at the railing during sail away. The ship simply never feels crowded.
You might be thinking right now, based on your own travel style, if I'm someone who genuinely likes the energy of a bustling hotel lobby, if I feed off the hum of a crowded casino or the vibrancy of a packed pool deck with a live reggae band on a hot afternoon, this description sounds, well, a little too quiet. It sounds almost sleepy. It's like moving from a vibrant, exciting beach town in the peak of summer right into a very secluded, very private gated estate surrounded by high hedges.
And if you thrive on that high-energy environment, this ship will absolutely feel too quiet for you. It will feel like a library. But let's look at what physical space represents in our current context. Let's extrapolate this.
Yep.
We live in a society where both our digital and physical lives are relentlessly crowded. Your inbox is overflowing, your group chats never stop pinging, the cities are dense, the traffic is heavy, your daily calendar is packed with back-to-back virtual meetings.
Oh, tell me about it.
In that context, the sheer, unadulterated luxury of empty space, the profound ability to just exist without being perceived, impinged upon, or interrupted by crowds has become the ultimate premium commodity.
Space is the one thing in luxury that you simply cannot fake. You can put gold leaf on the walls of a crowded room, you can hang $1 million chandelier from the ceiling, but if you have to push past 30 people to see it, it's still a crowded room.
Exactly.
True luxury is having the physical and acoustic breathing room to actually sit back and enjoy the gold leaf.
And the physical environment is just the foundation. You can have all the physical space in the world. You can be sitting in a perfectly quiet, beautifully appointed lounge overlooking the ocean. But if your brain is constantly churning, calculating costs, and making micro decisions, you aren't truly relaxed. Your mental space is still crowded.
Yeah.
This is where Crystal's philosophy extends from the physical into the psychological, specifically through their pricing model.
This is a huge point from the guide. Because you have the physical space to relax, but your brain needs the permission to relax too. Crystal describes its core offering as ultra all-inclusive.
Right.
Now, we all know all-inclusive is a term that gets thrown around constantly in the travel industry. A mass market resort might call itself all-inclusive, but then hand you a massive bill for the premium steak or the top-shelf vodka. So what does this actually mean in practical daily terms for the Crystal experience?
In the context of Crystal, ultra all-inclusive means that the vast, overwhelming majority of what defines your daily onboard life is completely covered in the upfront fare you paid months ago. We are talking about unlimited access to dining at all the restaurants, and crucially, this includes their high-end specialty dining venues.
Wow.
It includes premium beverages, champagne, fine wines, craft spirits poured freely throughout the entire ship, not just restricted to a specific happy hour or a VIP lounge. It includes all the gratuities for the crew members. It includes high-speed Wi-Fi access so you can stay connected if you choose.
Okay.
Now, there are always caveats at the absolute highest end. Certain hyper-rare vintage wines, highly specialized VIP shore excursions, or spa treatments will carry an extra cost, but the standard daily rhythm of living luxuriously on the ship is entirely covered.
On paper, that just sounds like good budgeting. You know exactly what the trip is going to cost before you even pack your bag, so you don't have a heart attack when you look at your credit card statement at the end of the trip. But the guide points out that the real benefit of this model is actually far less financial than it is deeply psychological.
We have to talk about the psychology of decision fatigue. In our normal day-to-day lives, we are forced to make thousands upon thousands of micro decisions. What to eat, what route to drive to work, what email to answer first.
Right.
And in a traditional, non-inclusive travel environment, that decision fatigue follows you right onto the ship. You are constantly evaluating. Every time you want a cup of coffee in the afternoon, you have to decide, do I want the free drip coffee from the buffet, or do I want to walk down to the cafe and swipe my card for the $6 premium cappuccino?
It is the constant grinding friction of microtransactions. Picture this. You're sitting by the pool, reading a great novel. You decide you want a mojito. On a standard cruise, you flag down a waiter. You order. 10 minutes later, they return with the drink and a letter folder. You have to put your book down. You have to find a pen that works. You look at the receipt. The mojito is $14. Then you have to do the mental math.
The dreaded mental math.
Do I add an 18% tip? Was the service good enough for 20%? You write down the number, sign your name, hand it back, and try to remember what page you were on.
Exactly. The transaction violently pulls you out of your state of relaxation.
It's the difference between the old way we consumed music and the modern way. Think back to the days when you had to pay 99 cents for every single a la carte song you downloaded to your device.
Oh, wow, yeah.
When you were paying per song, you were incredibly selective. You were constantly evaluating your own desires. Do I really like this song enough to spend $1 on it? What if I only like the chorus?
Right.
You had a scarcity mindset. But once you move to a music streaming subscription, where you pay one flat fee a month, the meter stopped running in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Your entire relationship with music changed. You explore different genres. You listen to half a song and skip it without feeling guilty. You just hit play and let it wash over you.
That's a perfect analogy. And when you apply that exact streaming mindset to a 30, 60, or 100-day voyage, the mental liberation is staggering. Because you don't have to sign a bill or calculate a tip for that mojito or that cappuccino. The decisions simply evaporate.
Yeah.
The transaction is gone. You want something, you ask for it, and it arrives. And the profound psychological effect of this is that the guest's experience of time begins to fundamentally shift.
Time dilation.
Yes, the days begin to feel more continuous, more fluid. The artificial breaks in your day, the pauses caused by financial transactions, completely disappear.
If every time you ordered an iced tea, the real world handed you a receipt to sign, the real world is constantly intruding on your peace. The real world of budgets, signatures, and mental math keeps tapping you on the shoulder to remind you it exists.
Exactly.
By removing the transaction from the moment of consumption, Crystal is effectively building a firewall against the real world, allowing you to sink into a much deeper, uninterrupted immersion into the voyage itself.
And this seamlessly sets up the next critical component. Because you aren't distracted by transactions, and because you aren't fighting through crowds for physical space, you begin to slow down. Your nervous system resets.
Right.
You fall into your own natural, personal rhythm. And this is the precise moment where Crystal's highly specific human element, their service model, intercepts you.
All right, so they've removed the financial friction in the crowded spaces. But the one thing that can still ruin your day, even in a beautiful space where the drinks are free, is a bad or awkward interaction with a human being.
Oh, 100%.
How does the crew fit into this philosophy of restraint? The guide describes the service as observational rather than formal or scripted. What does that look like?
This is a vital distinction, and it separates the merely expensive from the truly luxurious. In the high-end sector, you often encounter a type of service we can call scripted luxury. You see this in very traditional legacy five-star hotels or highly rigid formal environments.
Okay.
The staff are impeccably trained, yes, but they are following a rigid, almost theatrical script. They will stand at attention. They will always greet you with a highly formalized, booming, "Good evening, sir," or "Good evening, madam."
Right.
At dinner, the maitre d' will invariably interrupt your intimate conversation at the table to perform a rehearsed, performative check-in. Is the Chateaubriand cooked to your exact satisfaction this evening?
It's luxury as a performance art. They want to make absolutely sure you see the luxury happening. You are paying for the performance of subservience.
Right, but Crystal practices what we call anticipatory or observational luxury. The service is explicitly designed to be almost invisible until the exact millisecond you need it.
I love that.
The crew is trained to learn guest preferences incredibly quickly, but they do it through quiet, intense attentiveness, not through intrusive questioning. They don't ask you 20 questions about what you like. They observe how you live.
Give me a concrete example of how that plays out on the ship.
Okay. You walk into your favorite lounge on the third day of the cruise. You don't have to flag anyone down. The bartender saw you order a specific brand of gin with a splash of elderflower tonic and a lime twist on day 1.
Right.
On day 2, they saw you order it again. By day 3, the moment you sit down, that exact drink is being prepared. Or consider the room steward. They notice that you leave the cabin for a lecture every day at 10 a.m. and you always return at noon to take a nap.
Okay.
They will invisibly structure their cleaning schedule to ensure your room is pristine at 10:15 a.m. so they never knock on your door while you are resting.
It's the invisible hand. It's happening around you, supporting you, without demanding your attention or your gratitude.
Exactly. And this observational approach extends to how they structure the entire daily rhythm of the ship. The daily schedule on Crystal is intentionally, fiercely unstructured.
Yep.
They absolutely offer high-level enrichment programs. They bring on guest lecturers, historians, former ambassadors. There are elegant social events. But these are positioned strictly as gentle options, never as a forced itinerary.
Which raises a really common fear for people used to standard vacations. If the days are entirely unstructured, if there isn't an energetic cruise director constantly coming over the public address system, hyping up the belly flop contest at the pool, or the 2.0 p.m. trivia game in the lounge,
Right.
doesn't an unstructured day run the risk of guests just feeling profoundly bored? If the ship isn't providing a constant, pulsating stream of entertainment, what are you actually supposed to do all day, especially on a sea day?
That fear of boredom is very real for a lot of people, but it fundamentally misunderstands the demographic that this specific product is engineered for. For the highly experienced, often highly successful traveler, the absence of a hyperactive schedule is not a terrifying void. It is the entire point. They are not looking for the cruise line to be an entertainment provider. They have enough entertainment and stress in their daily lives. They are looking for the ship to be an enabler of their preferred lifestyle.
They want the luxury of curating their own boredom.
They want the profound freedom to cultivate their own daily routines without guilt. Think about a Type A executive who makes 100 high-stakes decisions a day. For them, a perfect day might mean waking up without an alarm, taking a quiet, uninterrupted hour-long walk on the promenade deck, followed by 3 hours of deep reading in the library.
Yeah.
A massive, leisurely 2-hour lunch with a bottle of wine and an afternoon nap. The ship is designed to seamlessly support whatever mood the guest is in without any friction or pressure.
It's flexibility at its core. If you want a refined, 6-course gastronomic tasting menu one evening, the ship provides that flawlessly. But if you spend the whole day walking around Rome and you come back exhausted and you just want a perfectly executed burger and a beer while wearing a comfortable sweater, the ship provides that too, with the exact same level of observational service.
Absolutely.
There is no pressure to plan ahead. There are no rigid dining times you have to adhere to.
And this brings us to the ultimate proving ground for everything we've just discussed. The subtle service, the vast physical space, the removal of the financial friction, the unstructured time. These might seem like really lovely, pleasant perks if you were just going on a quick 7-day hop around the Caribbean.
Right, you'd think, oh, that was a really nice, quiet cruise.
But you might not even fully grasp the depths of this philosophy in a single week. Crystal's entire business model, the very architecture of the ship, is built and optimized for the ultimate endurance test in travel, the extended voyage, the world cruise.
Let's dive deep into this because this is where all these individual elements crystallize into something entirely different. Crystal has a formidable, industry-leading reputation for these massive 100-plus night itineraries, We are talking about guests literally moving onto the ship for a third of the year.
Yes.
And it is on these extended voyages that their core philosophy is pushed to its absolute limits.
Yeah.
Because the underlying quality of a ship's design, its underlying service culture, and its operational consistency, all of that is completely impossible to fake or hide when you are trapping someone on a vessel for 4 months.
The concept we need to explore here is compounding friction. It is the silent killer of long-term travel.
Compounding friction.
But imagine you are on a standard mass-market 7-day cruise. Let's say the architectural layout is slightly flawed, and the hallway outside your cabin is just a few inches too narrow. So every single time you leave your room, you have to turn sideways and squeeze past the housekeeping cart. Or perhaps the kitchen operations are just slightly inefficient, so the dinner service in the main dining room is consistently 20 minutes too slow.
On a 1-week getaway, you don't even care. You brush it off. You're in vacation mode.
Yeah.
You got a pina colada in your hand. You're looking at the ocean, and you say, hey, we're on island time. Who cares if the appetizer takes a while?
Right.
It's a minor quirk of the trip. You tolerate it and power through.
But imagine that exact same seemingly minor flaw on day 80 of a 120-day world cruise. You have squeezed your body past that exact same housekeeping cart in that exact same narrow hallway 80 separate times.
Oh, wow.
You have sat at that table and waited that extra 20 minutes for your appetizer 80 nights in a row. You have wasted 26 hours of your life just waiting for the first course.
That sounds miserable.
What was a minor flaw on day 7 compounds into a source of intense psychological frustration by day 80. It can literally break a guest's spirit and ruin a multi-$100,000 experience. Compounding friction destroys the illusion of luxury over time.
It's like buying a pair of hiking boots. If you go to the sporting goods store, buy a cheap pair of boots, and just take a quick 10-minute walk around the block in your neighborhood, any shoe feels fine.
Right.
You might not notice that the arch support is slightly misaligned, or that the internal stitching rubs just a tiny fraction of a millimeter against your heel. It's a short walk, your body compensates. But you only find out if those boots are truly well-made, if the internal craftsmanship is genuine, when you are 50 miles deep into a rugged, multi-day mountain trek.
Exactly.
That tiny, imperceptible bit of rubbing that you ignored on the block compounds into a debilitating, bleeding blister on the mountain.
That's spot on. Crystal Serenity is the boot explicitly designed for the 100-mile trek. Their foundational choices, slashing the capacity, maintaining that incredibly high crew ratio, instituting the observational service, removing the microtransactions, these aren't just bullet points on a marketing brochure.
Right.
They are structural engineering choices, specifically designed to prevent compounding friction. They ensure that the ship is just as livable, just as comfortable, and just as frictionless on day 90 as it was the moment you stepped aboard.
Picture yourself on day 60 at sea in this environment. You have been living on this vessel for 2 solid months. You walk into your favorite lounge at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
The crew, knowing exactly how you take your morning coffee and having it waiting for you at your preferred table by the window without you having to ask, isn't just a neat trick anymore. It's not a novelty. After 60 days, that level of observational service creates a profound psychological sense of home.
It creates a deep sense of belonging and being deeply cared for. You aren't just a passenger passing through a hotel. You are a resident in your own floating community.
And that is exactly why they dominate the world cruise segment. The high space ratios don't magically shrink over time. The ship never feels like it's closing in on you. The massive dining flexibility means you don't suffer from menu fatigue because you aren't forced into the same dining room at the same time every night.
Right. The ship does not become less livable as the voyage stretches into its 3rd month. If anything, the guest's nervous system becomes more deeply attuned to its quiet, reliable comforts.
But Crystal isn't operating in a vacuum. If you are dropping the kind of money required for a 30-day or a 100-day ultra-luxury voyage, you are undoubtedly looking at a few distinct players in this specific space.
Oh, for sure.
How do you actually know which brand fits your exact psychological profile? Because at this price point, we can safely assume the baseline amenities are universally excellent. The steaks will be prime, the suites will have beautiful linens, and the crew will be impeccably polite across the board.
Yes, the differentiators at the ultra-luxury tier are rarely about quality. They are entirely philosophical. They are at the flavor of the experience. The main competitors in this specific arena are Regent Seven Seas, Silversea, and Seabourn, and each takes a meaningfully different approach to defining what ultra-luxury actually means in practice.
Let's walk through these because this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone actually planning a trip. Let's start with Region 7 Seas. What does their philosophy look like in practice?
Well, Regent is famous for their incredibly comprehensive, everything is included philosophy, and they lean heavily into the highly structured aspects of travel. They appeal to the traveler who wants the ultimate, perfectly packaged, fictionless logistical experience.
Okay.
For example, they are uniquely known for including a vast array of shore excursions in the upfront fare.
So if you're a traveler who wants to wake up, look at a beautifully printed menu of 5 different guided tours for that day's port, say, a wine tasting in Tuscany, or a guided historical tour of Rome.
Right.
And you want to know that you can simply walk off the ship, step onto a waiting luxury motor coach, and have every single second of your day expertly managed without ever opening your wallet. Regent is your brand. It is structured, comprehensive luxury. You don't have to think, you just have to show up at the designated time.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with Silversea. Silversea has built a remarkable reputation by combining high-end luxury with genuine, rugged exploration.
Right.
They operate a dual fleet. They have classic ocean ships, but they also have a massive focus on true expedition vessels that go to Antarctica, the remote Galapagos, or the deepest navigable parts of the Amazon.
So the focus there is looking outward toward the destination.
Yes, even on their classic ships, the onboard experience is deeply tied to where the ship is physically going. They bring on expert geologists, local historians, and naturalists.
That's cool.
The programming is designed for deeply curious explorers who want to intellectually understand the geography, the wildlife, and the culture of the remote ports they are visiting. The luxury serves as a comfortable base camp for intense exploration.
And then we have Seabourn. How do they fit into the mix?
Seabourn operates vessels that are significantly smaller than the Crystal Serenity. Because the physical footprint of the ships is so small, the atmosphere naturally becomes intensely intimate very quickly. It is designed to feel like you are a member of a private country club or a very exclusive private yacht.
The social dynamic must be totally different on a ship that small.
It is. The social dynamic is much more pronounced. You are interacting with a much smaller cohort of fellow guests and crew. You will likely get to know the captain and the senior officers personally. It is highly personalized, very chic, very intimate, and very social.
So we have Regent for the fully structured, heavily packaged logistical perfection. We have Silversea for the deep outward-looking destination and expedition focus. We have Seabourn for the intimate, highly social, private yacht club feel. Where does Crystal plant its flag in that landscape?
Crystal's ultimate differentiator is the sustained cultivation of unhurried living over long periods of time. They are less focused on maximizing the sheer volume of bullet points on a marketing brochure including every single bus tour, and entirely focused on how the overall environment feels on day 40.
Right.
It is about vast personal space, unparalleled dining flexibility, and a service culture that supports your independence rather than managing your schedule.
Which brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Who is this actually for? And perhaps more importantly, who will be completely miserable on this ship?
All right, that's the real question.
It is obviously built for experienced, long-duration travelers, people planning a month or more at sea. It is for space seekers, introverts, and routine lovers. It is for people who want a calm, residential atmosphere where they can hear themselves think.
And conversely, if you want a cruise director keeping the energy high, if you prioritize constant novelty, high-impact entertainment, or a busy resort-style vibe where there is always a party happening by the pool and a different show every night, Crystal's philosophy will deeply frustrate you.
Yeah, you'll be bored out of your mind.
You will find it too quiet. You will find it lacking in structured stimulation.
You really have to do a brutal self-evaluation of your own psychology before booking. You have to be honest about what actually recharges your batteries. Are you looking to be constantly amazed by new, flashy activities every hour?
Do you want your vacation to feel like a perfectly orchestrated, non-stop sequence of events that you can post about online?
Or are you looking for a perfectly quiet Tuesday afternoon, sitting on a massive, uncrowded teak deck with a great book, looking at the horizon, where absolutely no one interrupts you, but your favorite iced tea magically appears the exact second you realize you're thirsty?
It requires deep self-awareness. If you find peace in unstructured time, in vast personal space, and in service that anticipates rather than announces itself, then Crystal's philosophy aligns perfectly with your psychological needs.
Yeah.
If you view the ship not just as a transportation vehicle to get you from port to port, but as a floating residence that you intend to inhabit, adapt to, and make your own for weeks or months at a time, that is when this specific model transcends a mere vacation.
It really is a fascinating study of what luxury actually means as we move deeper into the 21st century. We have covered incredible ground today. We started by looking at Crystal's origins in the late 80s and the sheer audacity of their recent rebirth.
The fact that they actively chose to secure their legacy by taking a sledgehammer to their own cabins.
Right, physically engineering restraint and space back into their flagship vessel.
We examine how that physical space, when combined with the absolute removal of financial friction through their ultra all-inclusive model, fundamentally alters the human nervous system. By eliminating the friction of microtransactions and the continuous competition for space, they completely eliminate decision fatigue.
And we explored how that mental clarity allows you to settle into your own natural rhythms, supported by an invisible, observational crew that learns your habits rather than forcing you to conform to a corporate script.
Exactly.
And finally, we saw how all of these seemingly minor elements, the space, the seamless pricing, the anticipatory service, are ultimately engineered to prevent the compounding friction that destroys the romance of a 100-day world cruise.
Which leaves us with a larger, perhaps much more profound philosophical question to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
We live in an era where the concept of luxury is relentlessly marketed to us as having immediate access to everything. We are told that true luxury is having every possible activity, every conceivable inclusion, and maximum sensory stimulation at our fingertips 24 hours a day.
The endless spreadsheet of joy. The mandate to consume everything all the time.
But looking closely at Crystal's philosophy, it forces us to reconsider that entire premise. As our daily lives become more unbelievably crowded, more hyper-connected digitally, and more frantic in every way, is the ultimate evolution of luxury actually the exact opposite of having everything?
Wow.
Is true luxury simply the complete and utter absence of friction? Is it the profound absence of decision-making, the absence of crowds, and the absence of being rushed? Is the ultimate luxury simply having the unbothered space to just be?
That is something to truly mull over the next time you find yourself stressed out trying to plan a trip to relax. Take a moment and think about what unhurried living actually looks like in your own life, and whether your next journey needs more simulation or simply more space. Until next time, we hope you find that perfect balance. Remember, sometimes the most profound journeys begin when you finally throw away the spreadsheet.